So again, hi, Michael Russell, Lee Summit North High School, and talk about media resources from Mid-Continent Public Library. Specifically in this session, books, magazines, videos, online learning and training tools, and how to integrate those into Schoology. So there's a bit.ly code there, short code, with all the slides. The resources I'm going to talk about are linked within the presentation, but of course you can get them all directly through Mid-Continent Public Library. So first thing I want to talk about is how to link these in Schoology, because Mid-Continent has a tremendous amount of resources, right? But it's kind of difficult to send a kid with just printed directions of go here, click this, move here, look for this, go there. It's much easier to just put that URL into Schoology so that kids can do one click and they get right to the resource that you want them to see. So I'm going to use an example right off the bat of, I was talking to some IB 11 teachers the other day about finding resources when they are teaching Americana by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie about Nigeria. Give their kids an opportunity to see what the culture of Nigeria is like. So this is something, and I'll get into how to find this resource here in a little bit. But I'm on a page with all these different publications from Nigeria. So kids could choose one of these, open them up, either newspapers or magazines, and either through articles or just the pictures, scan through and see what life is like on the daily in Nigeria. So to put this into Schoology, just up at the top for Mid-Continent, I'm going to copy this URL, the full URL. I'm going to go back to Schoology, which in switching computers, I didn't get up, did I? No, there it is. Within the class that I want to add it, add materials, add file link, external tool, click on link, and we're going to paste in the URL and also give it a title. So Nigerian media. When you add that, and I'm not going to add it just in case any of our library kids jump in, like, why is this here? But once you add that, it will prompt students, and they click on that link, it will prompt students to enter their Mid-Continent Public Library card. And great news, not all the kids know this, not all teachers know this, but we do have Mid-Continent Public Library cards digitally for nearly all of our secondary students. And really, it's all students across the district. As they get older, the percentage of students who have these cards gets significantly higher. Last time I looked for Lee Summit North, only about 4 or 5 of our students did not have one of these cards. So their digital library card number is LS plus their student ID number. Really, really easy to remember. Most of the resources through Mid-Continent don't require a password, because the digital resources, they just want to make sure that you've got a card number. On the few that do, the password is that 8-digit birth month, date, and year. So 01/01/2003, I guess, for our seniors this year. Now, for those handful of kids who don't have access, where that access is granted in those forms at the very beginning of the year and at enrollment, do you want your kid to have one of these cards? Most parents say yes. Some say no. But for those students who don't, if you happen to have one of those, each school library has a school use card for Mid-Continent. So, for instance, at Lee Summit North, if you go to our website on the research page, it is on our web passport, and most kids know how to access that. It is password protected, but that card is there. Also talk to your school librarian, and we'll certainly tell you what that password is that you can share with those specific kiddos. Now, for teachers, we do not yet have cards for teachers through this sharing program with Mid-Continent Public Library. So you will have to use your own personal card, or you could use our school use card. Now, if you want a Mid-Continent Public Library card and you don't have one, first off, let's talk about your life choices. Are you new to town? Have you not gotten over to the library yet? Get yourself a Mid-Continent Public Library card. Good news, it's really, really easy if you don't have one yet. Go to their website. Just on the very left side of that homepage, click Get a Library Card. Little bit of information they will give you right away. That library card number that you can start using for all the digital resources. They will mail you the physical card. Now, if it's an issue that you don't have a library card because your 6-year-old checked out all of the Paw Patrol books and they're late, you're going to have to work that out with Mid-Continent. In the meantime, just use our school use card. Those school use cards are good for somewhere around 1,000 uses at the same time, so you don't have to worry about somebody else using it at the same time. A couple other notes on Mid-Continent. Talk with your school librarian because we work with them a lot. We pair with them for various things. Over the years, we have used Mid-Continent to bring in a lot of supplemental books or additional copies for like lit circles, for book clubs, where we just don't have the capacity in our school libraries. So we lean on them for extra copies in print. We have a couple times a year, students will come to Nathan or I for research questions, and they want a book that isn't in print anywhere around here. Mid-Continent doesn't have it. We don't have it. UMKC doesn't have it, but we can find it at other research universities around the country. And there is a lending program where we can get those books in. Obviously, the COVID situation might affect that a little bit right now, but certainly something to look for as we move forward. And Mid-Continent is always willing to help out, to come into the school, again, outside of COVID once we get students back, but partner with us for various projects. We often have their teen librarians come over and work with our book club. They're willing to go into classes. So talk with your school librarian about possibilities of pairing with them. So let's talk about some specific resources. I'm not going to get through all of these in the next 13 or so minutes, but I will mention, I'll link off of this very first one, O'Reilly Business and Technical. These are the two slides that I want to get through some of these resources in this session. Once I get off of O'Reilly, I will probably just stick with the Mid-Continent website, but all those you can access later, and I'll show you how to kind of get around. So O'Reilly is a lending library for ebooks that are kind of technical, but are fantastic because they offer a lot of additional supplemental learning, or they're books that are, the $40 to $80 range that are really expensive to buy and you only get one copy. Here, you can assign them to students. So let's say you are working in digital media. I will also point out there's math and science, engineering, business, a lot of various categories that you can work with. I'm just going to pick digital media because it's something I'm kind of familiar with. So illustration and graphics. Let's say you've got a student or a group of students and you would like them to do something with Adobe Illustrator. Maybe you are working with the newspaper or the yearbook or just graphic arts in general. This is, I'll point out these books. So notice May 20th, 2020. This one for Adobe Illustrator published February 7th, 2020. So they're mostly very new. You can see the overview, but more importantly, let's say you want to teach a very specific part of this. You could click here, and let's say you want to show students how to create a new artboard, or even how to design a weather icon with the moon and stars. So let's click that one. This will get us to that specific chapter, that specific lesson within this textbook. And now you can click that URL, paste it directly into your Schoology page. So students will land straight here once they enter their Mid-Continent Public Library card. So a lot of uses there. That is something that we could probably do a full screen on just by itself, but a lot of other resources to get through. So I'm going to go back to mymcpl.org. Obviously, they've got a ton of resources. We are going to focus books, movies, and music in this session. And since right now everything's virtual, we're going to go digital. First thing, Overdrive. We, of course, have Overdrive here in the school libraries. We've had it for about 10 years. Hopefully, you're very familiar with it. Lots of ebooks available there. Big difference between ours and theirs, two differences. One, they've got a bigger budget, so they've got more copies of everything. Also, you can see the titles straight off the bat when you go to their Overdrive, where ours is password protected so that third graders aren't checking out copies of It by Stephen King or something like that. Ours sorts kids into juvenile or young adult. Here you can click teens. You can see that whole library there. Let's say you're teaching a unit on fairy tale and folklore. I got a Minnesota accent all of a sudden. You could, if you want kids to browse that, just copy the URL from up top here and paste that in, and then kids will go straight to this collection and choose something from there. Of course, I think our Mid-Continent or our Overdrive collection within the schools are very good as well. I encourage you to do that. RB Digital Comics doesn't work. It used to be a great place to send kids who love anime and graphic novels. I think they have ended their subscription to that. Quickly, Flipster, RB Digital, our digital magazines. We have both, or have had both. Right now, all of our school libraries have Flipster. I think one of our librarians is doing a session more specifically on ours. The big difference between these two, RB Digital used to be known as Zinio. We had that for a few years. Both, let me click into RB Digital just to show, both have very good magazines, popular new magazines that you can access pretty much anytime. Flipster, I think, is a little bit easier to get into, but for instance, where Flipster has Time, Zinio has Newsweek. One has Pioneer Woman, one has Rachel Ray. So for instance, there's Rachel Ray. If you wanted to check this out, you click on that title, click checkout. Also, I will point out the irony, this might be too soon, but Rachel Ray on the cover is posing with firefighters. Her house burned down last week. Yeah. So these you could link straight to specific magazines if you wanted your students to look for something like that. I know our PE classes, we show these to our PE classes every semester because if a kid can't do something in gym class, they go here to find magazines for that. So that's Flipster, Zinio. While I'm here, I will show you can click and see all the issues within Flipster. Once you're in the magazine, you can go all the way back. I think it's 2014. There you go. So let's bump back out to Mid-Continent. The one I really want to show you, this is probably my favorite of all of the things on Mid-Continent, all of their resources. This is the one I mentioned earlier of the magazine. So this is Press Reader. And off the bat, you can see there are all sorts of magazines. I think they have over 5,000 magazines, newspapers, publications from all around the world. So a couple of different ways to use this. I showed the example earlier of trying to teach a culture. So notice these are just sorted by countries where all these different publications come from. Obviously, some have more than others, 433 from France, 315 from Germany, just 4 from Iceland. You could also, as a modern language teacher, look at all these different languages the publications are in. Chinese, French, German, 520 in French. So that could be something for your more advanced students. You could send them here to read something, or if you have a student who speaks Arabic and they just want some practice, certainly something that they could check out. It's really, really easy to get lost in Press Reader because that is just such a phenomenal fount of information. There are some movie access, Medici TV, if you are a fan of classical music or if you teach music. This is a great resource because it has recordings of symphonies and concerts from around the world. It used to also show live concerts back when we could have live concerts, but phenomenal resource, also easy to kind of get lost in that. Access video. Right after this session at 9 o'clock, Jen Coleman from Lee Summit High School is going to do a session about Learn 360 Classroom Video on Demand, which is a brand new resource we've got here in the district. It is phenomenal. I hope you check that out. This is the public library version of that. And so a lot of the features are very similar. Let's say you're teaching Romeo and Juliet, and you want something more than the Zeffirelli 1968 version, maybe something from the Globe Theater. So here is live from Shakespeare's Globe. You could, by clicking on this, copy the link up at the top, and you've got access to the whole play performance that they have here. Or let's say you really want to focus on the Queen Mab speech. So here, chapter 24, the Queen Mab speech. When you click on this, it queues it up for you. You could send students directly here. And so to do that, it's slightly different. So you have to hit that share button. I'm going to go back to make sure you see that. So just to the left, share to, and then you click embed or link, and just that segment URL is what you want to copy. If you want large, small, medium, you can change that before you make the copy. Copy that, and then you paste that into Schoology, and kids will come right here. Now, you can also create your own segments if you want a segment that they don't have situated. Hopefully, Jen will address that in her session on the one that we have here in our 7 district new this year. If not, go see your school librarian. and access that. That's absolutely fantastic. I'm going to bump over to research and learning and show a couple of other great resources for just learning in general. So I'm clicking the online learning tab. I want to feature lynda.com is a wonderful resource for just learning all sorts of things. So earlier I mentioned the O'Reilly books that do a lot of training and tutorials. These are video tutorials done by professional trainers. They're very good. Now, a lot of these are available. There are a lot of available on YouTube. You can look up somebody and they'll talk you through things. The advantage of these is that they are professional trainers. They don't babble on, which I am guilty of, I will admit. They are fantastic. And again, you can do specific segments to post rather than having somebody watch the whole thing. Definitely great video supplements for very technical things. And it's kind of all over the map. Universal Class is a great resource for all sorts of just lifelong learning things. You can see there it says over 500 courses, everything from accounting to crafts and hobbies. There's even one on how to open a dog sitting business, a dog walking business. So this might be something for those kids who have interests beyond what we teach, or you might be able to find some things that supplement what you are already teaching in Universal Class. These you sign up, you will go at your own pace, and then the instructors give you feedback rather than just watching the videos. You do get some feedback. They also have on Midcontinent another resource called PF Foundational Skills. That is linked, and like a lot of Midcontinent things, it's not on this page. I'm sure you can find it in the A to Z list, or even when you go to browse subjects. The PF Foundational Skills teaches those soft skills that a lot of our business owners around the community, when kids leave, they say, what kids really need is the ability to read a room, to say hi, to communicate well. That we try to teach, but maybe they don't always pick up. So that PF Foundational Skills has that. And going back to my slides. There we go. So on that second slide, there's the PF Foundational Skills Universal Class. Who knew it? Is tech tutorials geared to education. Mango Language is a great supplemental. I have an app that I use all the time called Duolingo. Mango Language is a subscription service, but with a library card. You don't need to pay for it, which is fantastic. I will also point out Homework Help is a phenomenal resource. Math teachers for a long time have wanted ways to send kids to this. Now with their digital library card, they can click this. It goes to Homework Help. It is only open noon until midnight. So great resource for kids for math questions, science questions. They can also submit English papers. So if they've got a research paper or just an English paper, they can submit it. The feedback there isn't immediate, but within a couple of days, they will have somebody get back to them. So Homework Help is absolutely fantastic. Obviously something for after the quarantine. The Museum Pass through Midcontinent, you can sign up, go to Midcontinent, and they've got all these different passes that they'll give you. So rather than paying $5 to get into the National Frontier Trails Museum, you can just use that Midcontinent card and jump in. So that is a real quick look at some of the databases, some of the media resources that you can access through Midcontinent Public Library. Obviously, talk to your school librarian if you've got questions about accessing, putting those on to Schoology. Up next, Jen Coleman, like I mentioned, from Lee Summit is doing a session at 9 o'clock on Learn 360. I really, really encourage you to do that, as we have poked around a little bit with that as school librarians, getting training on that. I'm really excited to be able to offer that. Many of you are familiar with Safari Montage, a product that we used to have. I personally was not a fan of that for a number of reasons. I think there's a lot more opportunities for this. So a couple questions. Elaine, hi Elaine, asked, how far back do the newspapers in Press Reader go? Many of those, that's a really good question. I'm thinking of Flipster rather than Press Reader. Let's find out. Let's say, I've already got this Nigerian page up, so I'm going to go with the Daily Trust. And on See All, we are back to 2019. There's a lot. I feel like I can scroll forever.
My thought process was,
in fact, I'm scrolling so far that my browser is having a hard time catching up. So let's just say a ways. It goes back. In the next session, I will show you, in the database session I'm doing at 9 o'clock, some really old resources. So historic newspapers that go back a long, long ways. Also, like the Kansas City Star, where you can access the digital version of what you see on a daily paper back to like 2013. So that's kind of a good resource as well. But I'll hit those at 9 o'clock. Lots of great sessions today. Hopefully you've got that link to all the different library sessions. If you can't get to all of them, I know it's a little overwhelming the start of the year, right? With all these different sessions. We are recording them and adding them to that original link with the spreadsheet. So once we're done with a session, we put the recording and all of the slides that we have used. Anybody else have any questions they want to throw out? We will call that a no. And I thank you all for attending. As always, let us know, your school librarians, if there's any way we can help you. We're here for you. Have a great start to the school year. Thanks, everybody.